Hello Infiniteers! Today we are going to finish the Helping Felix Jr. toy box by hooking up the logic for the challenge. My version of this toy box has a little bit more logic than the original, and I did that so that you can replay this game as many times as you like without having to reload the toy box. But this is still very easy to do. I'm going to walk you through it step by step so that you can see exactly what you need to do. And before we begin, I want you to know that I've created some logic diagrams that may help you out. I've posted them on my blog, and I have put a link to them in the video description. So for those of you who want to follow along and recreate this on your own systems, you may want to refer to those diagrams as we go. Alright, before I started recording this video, I placed all of the Creativitoys that we are going to need for this challenge. And I did that to save time, so let me show you what I've got, and you can look at what I've done and copy it. And I've only placed these toys. I have not set any of their properties. I have hooked up a few toys to save time, but I'll talk about that in a moment, and I will show you exactly what I did, so there's nothing for you to worry about. Alright, first thing we're going to do is place the cameras. And so I've placed a block here out of the basic blocks drawer. It's the tall block, and I've positioned it like you see here. Okay? And then I placed 1, 2, 3 of those with a small cube on top. And then I placed a target camera, and this is out of the Creativitoys. All right? Then I placed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with another cube on top and placed our second camera there. All right, so these are the cameras that are going to show you the parts of the building. I have also placed a locator straight across from the cameras, and it's about a cube out away from the building. Okay, and the same is true with the other camera. There's a locator directly across from that camera as well. Okay, and it's centered on the building. All right, then down here I placed 2 object generators, a challenge maker, and these are all out of the Creativitoys drawer, 2 logic gates, a timer, a logic and I've hooked a lot of stuff up to this already, but don't worry about that. I'll talk about that in a minute. Another logic gate, again with some things I've hooked up, and I'll talk about that in a minute. We have a replayer, and I placed a blip block here. This is out of the basic blocks drawer. It's the square blip block. We're going to put those down with a replayer so that we can put them back when we play a second game, and we can have a fresh set of blocks. Then I placed a level starter and a button which will hook up to that level starter. We have a repeater, and then we also have this, which is the reset-o-matic. Okay, we probably haven't used that much, but we're going to use that today. All right, and then over here I have placed a path. I used the path creator, and I placed the path here at the junction between these 2 plant clusters, and I ran it all the way down here and put the second point down here between those 2 plant clusters. Okay, that's going to anchor the player to the 2D plane. And then I placed a locator here with the little blue dot facing in that direction. That's where the player will start. And then I placed 2 more of these basic blocks, and I put our third camera on here, and this is the side step camera. Okay. I placed 3 checkpoints, 1 here, 1 up here, and another one up here. Okay? And then for every black broken window, every black color changing block, I have placed a trigger in front of that. Okay? You notice I didn't put one in front of the blue blocks because those windows aren't broken. They don't need it. But in front of every broken window, there's a trigger. I've also placed a button here and a button down here. And I can't remember if I placed these last time or not, but on this ledge here we have this pop-up turret from the Instant Fun category. I placed one there, I placed one there, and I placed a couple of them up here as well. Okay, and that is everything that I have placed. Okay. All right, so that covers all the toys, and I know there's a lot there. Don't worry, this is going to be easy to hook these up. This isn't difficult. And again, I'm going to walk you through this step by step. All right, before we hook those up, I want to tell you about these two toys that I've already hooked stuff up to. So the logic AND is going to keep track of all of the windows that have been broken. So every time we step on one of these triggers, we're going to input into the logic AND. And then when all of the triggers have been stepped on, the challenge is done. So that's the purpose of the logic AND. This logic gate here is going to be our reset gate. All right. So this logic gate is going to put everything back into its original state so that we can replay this game. And so what we have done here is we have hooked this up so that it will clear all, or we're going to hook it up so it'll clear all the checkpoints. And we're going to hook it up to all of the color changing blocks to change them back to black. Okay? So that's the purpose of those two things. And I already made the connection for all of the windows and all the triggers except one. So if you're wondering, well, what exactly did I do? I'm going to show you that right now. Okay? So I'm going to hook this window up for you and this trigger. What I'm going to do here, you're going to do for every one of these triggers. For this one and that window, for this one and that window, for this one and that window, and so on. And yeah, there's quite a few of them. It's going to take you a little bit of time. I think it took me about 40 minutes to hook all these up. But again, it's very easy. And you only have to do these one time. So, all right, there's 3 connections we need to make. So from the trigger, we're going to open the logic menu. We're going to do a new logic connection. When this is stepped on by player any, okay, we're going to come over to the color changing block for that window, and we're going to set it to light blue. That will make that block look like that one, which is a good window. Okay? The other thing we need to do is let that logic AND know that we've done this button, this window's fixed. So we'll do a new logic connection on the trigger when stepped on by player any. We'll come over to the logic and we will input. Okay? And then the last thing we want to do is when we want to replay the challenge, we need to reset all of those windows. And again, that's what this logic gate is for. So on this logic gate, we'll do a new logic connection. On output from the gate, we'll come over to our window and we will restore. This will put it back to the color that's set in the properties, which in this case is black. Okay, so that's what you do for each window. 3 logic connections. 2 from this, and 1 from the logic gate over there to the window to reset it. Okay? Do that for this trigger and block, do that for this trigger and block, and so on, all the way up the building. Okay, and again, that will take you a little time, which is why I did all of those offline except for that one. So I've shown you what to do, now you can do it. Okay, now that catches you up to everything that I have done. And Now we can hook up the rest of the logic. Okay, while we're working with this reset logic gate, there's one more thing we want to do with this, and that is to clear the checkpoints. Because if the player has already played this once and set the checkpoints, when they replay it and they happen to die, we don't want to jump them to a different part of the building that they haven't been to yet. So on the logic gate, we'll do a new logic connection on output, and again, this is the reset logic gate. We're going to come over to each of our 3 checkpoints, and we are going to clear the checkpoint for all. Okay? And I'll make that same connection here for the others. So a new logic connection on output. And if you want, you can put in some additional checkpoints, more than what I've got here. I've only put in 3, because I think this is what the original toy box had. But if you want to add some additional ones, feel free. I don't think there's a problem with that. Might actually be helpful. And then one more on output. Come up here and clear that checkpoint for all. Okay, so there we go. All right, let's see. The next thing I want to do, let's do this. Let's do the replayer next and put those blip blocks in. All right, and before we come out of the editor, let me pick this up and put it down just to get to that part of the drawer. And I want to set the properties on the replayer to take the playback interval to 0. We want this to play back as quickly as possible. All right, so now we'll come out of the editor. We're going to step on our replayer, which will open up a little menu in the lower right corner of the screen. And I am going to select B on my Wii U, the bottom button there, to start recording. And you'll notice it changed from a circle to a square, which tells us it's recording. And if we come into the editor, you can see the little red light on the replayer is flashing, which means it's in recording. Okay, so now we're going to come up to this set of floors, and we're going to put in the blip blocks. And let's start over on this side and kind of work our way across. And we're going to begin here. We're going to put down 3. 2 of these like this. Okay. And we can't place anything on top of there, so we get that little red bounding box. So we're not going to worry about that. And we don't want to cover up the windows, so we're not going to cover those up. And we don't want to fill this up too completely, because the player has to be able to get in here. Oh, we got that thing. Okay. Well, you're going to place one here. You might want to wait until we do the blip blocks before you put in those cannons, but you'll place a blip block here. I can't do that because there's a little red bounding box there that's preventing me from doing that. So I apologize for that, but that's what you're going to want to do. All right, so then we come down here, and let's go down to the bottom again, just to be kind of consistent here. We're going to start on top of this ledge. We're going to do that, okay? And then we're going to go across and we're going to basically mirror what we just did there. Like that. And And then we're going to come over here, and again, we're going to mirror what's on the other side. And you're just going to fill in the pattern just like I'm doing here. And you can pause the video along the way if you need to do that. And here we run into that bounding box issue again, so definitely don't put those turrets in before you do the blip blocks. I forgot that. Okay, and once you've placed all the blip blocks, you're going to exit out of the editor. And let's go back in the editor, because I need to be down here by my replayer. Okay, and then we'll come out of the editor. We'll step on the replayer to open that little menu again in the lower right corner. Once more, I will press B to stop recording. And this time I'm going to press A to clear. And you only want to do this one time, or you'll corrupt the replayer. So I press A, and the blocks disappear. And if we want, we can verify that we're okay. Press Y one time to play them back. Verify that they get put back, and you can go into Spark mode and go up there and look and just make sure they all went back safely. And then once more we'll come here, step on the replayer, press A to clear. Alright, so there the replayer is set and ready to go. It'll put the blip blocks in and take them out as needed. Okay, and we can delete this little thing because we're done with that. Alright, one more thing I'd like to do before we start hooking up the rest of the logic is if you go into the gameplay toys, we need those exploding blocks. And we have to go over to the right a little bit. I should have put one of those down ahead of time also, but I didn't think about that. You go over to the right, and you come to our explosive block, okay? We're going to place 3 of these. The first one is going to go right up here, like this. The second one is going to go... let's see, is that the right place? Yes. That is going to go down that way. Okay. And then the same thing on the other side. We're going to place, whoops, no, not there. Sorry. We'll come back into here in Spark mode and delete that. No, wait, that one's right. That one's right. I'm looking at this screenshot and getting confused. Okay, this is where the block goes. I can't put it here because I have blip blocks that are there, but I can put it over here because I did not put any there. And then this has a straight shot all the way down past all the ledges until it hits the ground. Okay? All right. And so what's going to happen when I come out of the editor, all 3 of those blocks are going to fall. Okay? And I want to go ahead and do that and just let them fall. So come out of the editor. There they are. Boom. All right. And that'll happen at the very start of the level when you first load it up. And now when you look, there's a little kind of a semi-transparent version of that object up here, which tells you it's there, but it's not there because it fell and was used. And in order to replace those, that's why we have the reset-o-matic here. Okay? And we're going to use the repeater to periodically put them back so we can drop them again. Alright, now we have everything in place. Let's go ahead and hook it up. And again, this should go fairly quickly at this point. So we'll come over here to our challenge maker. We're going to go into the properties. We're going to leave that off. We're going to set the results score label to time. Okay. We're going to sort high to low. Separate locations is fine. We're going to change the end location to the locator because we need to bring them off of the building out here. And we're going to drop them over to that locator there on the right side of the screen. I'll hook that up in a moment. We're going to leave this set the way it is. Can't do anything about those. We'll go ahead and just explicitly set this to start on foot. Okay. And we'll go ahead and exit out of that. And then we'll do a new locator connection. And we're going to connect up to this locator over here. This will be the start location. And then we'll do a new locator on the challenge maker. Connect to that locator. This will be our end location. So when the challenge is done, whether the player succeeds or fails, we're going to put them there. And by the way, now that we have the cameras here, let's go ahead and delete these things. Get them out of the way. Because they're distracting me. All right, and while we're here, let's go ahead and set up the cameras. So we're going to do a new locator connection on this top camera. This is going to connect to the locator that's straight across from it. That will be the camera target. And we're going to set the properties on this. We're going to leave that, leave that, leave that. Follow is good, cut is good, triggering player is good. We're going to turn glow through off because I hate that setting personally. Camera target is going to be the connected locator. We're going to leave that on, and we're going to leave all these set the way they are. Just double checking my notes. Yeah. Okay. All right. And then we're going to do the same thing with this camera. So, new locator connection. Come out here, connect up to that locator. And properties. Leave that. Actually, I think we want to turn on define duration. I didn't have this in my notes. Kind of surprised I didn't have that, but yes, you want to turn that on. And I think you can probably leave this on for maybe 8 seconds instead of the full 10. If you want, you can leave it full 10. And you can play around with that. All right, again, follow, cut, triggering player, glow through is off. Camera target will be the connected locator. All the rest of these stay the same. And let me set this one back. Turn that on. Okay. All right, so this button here will do a new logic connection. When this is pressed, we'll come out here to our target camera and activate it. And because we turned that flag on a moment ago, it'll automatically turn itself off after 10 seconds. Or the player can press the little button to get out of that camera mode. New logic connection. When this one is pressed, we will invoke this camera and activate that. All right, so those cameras are done. The timer. Go into the properties. We're going to set this target time to be 600. Okay? That's how much time the player will have. They'll have about 10 minutes to traverse the building and fix all the windows. Visible display is going to be on. We'll leave that one on because we're going to count down from that time. All right, and on the repeater, we're going to set the properties on this to be every 12 seconds. We'll drop those explosive blocks. Okay. Sidestep camera. All right, so we're going to leave that. We're going to leave that. Leave that. Follow, cut. It looks like I already turned this off. Okay, so you want to turn that off. Use that, leave that. Leave that. Set the vertical offset to 4. The default here is 0. You want to set that to 4. And then horizontal offset will be 0. Again, this is positioned directly across from where the player starts. All right, so that's all the properties on everything. Now there's a few things we want to do when the player loads up the toy box, and that's what we have the level starter for. First thing I want to do is a new logic connection on Catalyze. We're going to come over to each of the object generators, and we want to give them a boost pack. So under the packs, we're going to give them the Star Command boost pack. I'm going to do that for both of those object generators. That way, if you have 2 players, you'll each have a boost pack. The other thing we want to do is on the level starter, a new logic connection on Catalyze. We want to make sure this door stays closed. So we're going to close the door. And because we have a logic connection connected to that, the player can run past it, and it will not automatically open the door and break the connection that there's actually no building here. And break the illusion, I mean. And so that will be good. All right, and because we are in this toy box already, and I don't want to save it, close it, reload it to have that level starter do what it needs to do, we'll hook up a button to do that. So when this is pressed, we will invoke the level starter. And we can come out of the editor, press the button, and that will cause the boost packs to appear. Okay? And the door is now sealed. Okay, let's begin hooking up the challenge maker. And from here, this should go pretty quickly. We'll set the timer first. And so on here, we're going to do a new logic connection. On invites accepted, first thing I want to come over and do to the timer is reset it. And there's something else I want to do with this timer on invites accepted. But since I've already made a connection to the timer, I can't connect to it a second time with that signal. That's why we have this first logic gate here. So we're going to input into that gate. And then on output from that gate, we'll come over to our timer. And we're going to show the timer display. Okay. On the challenge maker, a new logic connection. When this is started, we will start the timer, and that'll start counting down from 10 minutes. On the challenge maker, a new logic connection. When the game is ended, we want to pause the timer. And there's another thing we want to do too. We want to hide it. But once again, since we've already made a connection on game ended to the timer, we need to go through another toy to get to there, and that's why we have this logic gate. So we'll input into that one, and on output from this gate, we'll come over to the timer, and we will hide it from the display. Okay. Now on the timer, a new logic connection. When the timer expires, so it's counting down, when it hits 0 and the player hasn't finished the game yet, we want to fail the challenge. So we'll come over to the challenge maker and we'll do game failed. Okay, And then one last connection to the timer. We're going to do a new time results connection on the challenge maker. Come over to the timer and select that. And that will display the time when the challenge is done. Okay, and that is it for the timer. Next thing we will do is the replayer. So on the challenge maker, a new logic connection. On invites accepted, we're going to come over to the replayer and do a playback. And it's very important when you save this toy box that this is in the cleared state like it currently is. That's why I cleared it. So that when we start the challenge, it'll play back the replayer and we'll get a fresh set of blocks. And then on the challenge maker, a new logic connection. When the game is ended, we'll clear the replayer. And that'll take whatever blocks are left out. Okay? And so when the challenge starts, it'll do a playback, we'll get a fresh set of blocks, and away we go. For the explosive blocks that are falling, the repeater takes care of that. And so on the challenge maker, we're going to do a new logic connection. And this is going to be on started. We'll come over to the repeater and turn it on. And on the repeater, a new logic connection on repeat, which will fire every 12 seconds as we specified in its properties. We're going to come over to the reset-o-matic and we're going to reset the physics blocks. All right? That'll put the blocks back up there, and then gravity will take over and they'll fall again. And when the challenge is over, we want to stop that. So on the challenge maker, a new logic connection. When the game is ended, we'll come over to the repeater and turn it off. Okay? That's it for the repeater. Now when the challenge starts, it's going to put the player over there at that locator, and we need to anchor them to that path. So on the challenge maker, we're going to do a new logic connection on started, not on invites accepted, but on started. We'll come over to our path. We are going to activate 2D character movement. This will put the players in that mode, and we're going to do this for all players. Okay? So on invites accepted, once the invites accepted is done and the challenge gets ready to start, it puts the player over here. And so I don't want to put the player there until we actually start. I mean, I don't want to anchor them to the path until we actually start the challenge. Okay? And then, of course, when the challenge is over, we want to take them off of that path. So a new logic connection on the challenge maker. When the game is ended, we'll come over to our path. And we will restore 3D character movement for all players. Okay? So the player will still be wherever they ended up here on the building. On game ended, it'll show the results, and then when the results window is closed, it'll drop them over here at this location. And so if we don't restore 3D character movement, it won't be able to put them over here. The other thing we want to do is when the game starts, we want to activate that side-scrolling camera. So on the level starter, a new logic connection. On started, we're going to come over to our sidestep camera and activate this. And we can go ahead and delete these two blocks now that we're here. And when the game is over, we want to turn that camera off. So on game ended, we'll come over and deactivate that camera. Okay. All right, that takes care of the camera, the repeater, the path, the timer, the checkpoints, the reset-o-matic, all the triggers and windows have been set. The last thing we want to do is set this up so that we can successfully complete the game. And then reset it. So on the logic and, once all of those triggers have been touched and all the windows have been fixed, this is going to emit the complete signal. And so we're going to come to the logic and do a new logic connection. On complete, we'll come over to the challenge maker and complete the game. Okay? And then once the game is gets ready to restart, so if the player wants to play this again, then we want to reset everything. And so on here, we'll do a new logic connection on the challenge maker. When invites are accepted, we'll come over to our reset logic gate and we will input. And this will reset all of the checkpoints and clear those. This will reset all of the windows that should be broken back to black. And the player will be ready to go. And at this point, I think we pretty much have everything. As you can see, this was not too bad a challenge to hook up. The biggest part of this is hooking up all of those triggers to all of the color changing blocks and hooking those up to the logic and the reset logic gate. That's what's going to take the longest for you to do. Once that's done, and that takes about 40 minutes, then you saw here from the video how long it took to hook up everything else. So you're looking at about an hour and a half to hook up all the logic, which is not too bad. So it's a lot of logic, but it's easy logic. And compared to a lot of the other challenges that we've done, like Gusteau's Kitchen, this was pretty simple. But anyway, once you're done, you can save your toy box and then go ahead and try this out, play the challenge, make sure everything works, both by completing the challenge and then playing it again, and let the timer expire to make sure that the challenge fails properly. And once you've tested everything out, then you can move all of these creativitoys here, the replayer, the level starter, this button, those two controls out there, the timer and logic gates and all those things, move them below the terrain, and then save your toy box once again, and you're done. Well, that's all for me today. Be sure to tune in again next Friday as we take a look at another classic toy box, or better yet, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done that, so that you won't miss the next episode when it airs. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend.